First with the latest news every 30 minutes. News Talk KVNU, your number one radio station for news and talk.
KVNU News Time is 5:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Logan Extermination. A 74-year-old Nibley man has confessed to sexually assaulting a young girl several years ago. Curtis D. Rudd was originally arrested in August 2022 after an investigation by Cache County Sheriff's deputies. According to court records, Rudd participated in a virtual hearing on Wednesday, February 28th. In Logan's 1st District Court, he waived his right to a fair trial and accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to an amended count of aggravated sexual abuse of a child, a first-degree felony. According to prosecutors, the father of the victim contacted law enforcement after Rudd disclosed the crime to him. The defendant admitted to inappropriately touching the young girl in 2019 while he was caring for the child at his home. The father told Cache County Sheriff's deputies Rudd had first confessed the crime to his church clergy. Multiple family members later verified the defendant had disclosed the same incident to them, saying he made a huge mistake and would probably be going to jail, according to law enforcement. Deputies determined the juvenile victim would have been an infant at the time of the incident. The case had been scheduled to go to trial March 15th. During Wednesday's court appearance, Judge Spencer Walsh accepted Rudd's plea deal and canceled the upcoming jury trial. Rudd remains out of jail on $25,000 bond. He is scheduled to be sentenced April 15th and could face up to life in prison. KVNU News Time is 5:05. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly cloudy skies is our forecast, and the overnight low tonight between 15 and 20. Slight chance of snow in the morning on Tuesday, then a 40% chance of snow and rain in the afternoon, and high temperature right around 40 degrees. Chance of rain and snow with us tomorrow or on Wednesday as well. High temperature in the lower 40s. 33 has been our high. It's 31 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture, family owned and operated for 95 years. Bring in your tax return. Closeout prices on select mattress models, including displays. Always a better buy at U&I, downtown Logan, 28 West, 1st North.
Edward, spring's almost here. Will you please call Logan Extermination to come prune the trees?
I think I'm going to save some money and do it myself. It can't be that hard, can it? There you go. My masterpiece.
Ew, that's hideous. I'm going to call the pros at Logan Extermination. Hopefully it's not too late.
Don't make the same mistake as Mr. Scissorhands. Call Logan Extermination today and get a jump on tree pruning. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
KBNU News Time 5:06. A small but receptive group of Valley citizens turned out Friday night to hear what Cache County Clerk and Auditor David Benson intended to be a public meeting press conference to finally put the recent investigations of his office to rest. Instead, Benson found himself preaching to a choir of residents who are obviously less than enthusiastic about Utah's mail-in election process. After fielding a couple pointed questions about his own alleged responsibility in the election probe by state officials and the Cache County Attorney's Office, Benson responded to another query by confessing that given his personal preference, he would opt for in-person voting only in the upcoming presidential election. Benson explained that he made no secret of those preferences when he campaigned in the special election that selected him to replace former County Clerk and Auditor Jess Bradfield in June 2023. Since assuming his county post, Benson has added an option to the Clerk Auditor's website that allows local residents to opt out of receiving a ballot in the mail, although that option has been less than a roaring success. Since mail-in ballots are the state's system, however, Benson said his hands were tied. The state's investigation of local election irregularities had been underway since shortly after Utah's municipal elections on November 21st last year. Benson said that he was actually grateful for the state probe and for a concurrent investigation by the Cache County Attorney's Office that resulted in criminal charges being brought against former county election coordinator Dustin Hanson for falsifying a required document. The result of those inquiries, he judged, has been to make the county's election processes better and stronger. KBNU News Time is 5:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
American energy is under attack. Joe Biden has waged a war on American natural resources and made it harder to produce affordable, reliable, and clean energy right here in Utah. Our energy prices are already going up. Biden's policies will make it worse. But Republican John Curtis has our back. There is no greater supporter of unleashing American energy than John Curtis. John Curtis knows our abundant natural resources help keep us free and safe, powers our economy, keeps the lights on, and keeps Utah on the move. John Curtis is Utah tough. He's taken the fight to Joe Biden and the Washington politicians who all want to hurt American energy. And now we need a conservative to take the fight to the United States Senate. We need Republican John Curtis, a strong defender of American energy dominance in the fight for us.
Paid for by Clear Path Action Fund. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
Snow, rain, or sunshine, the Utah weather is unpredictable. This is Mark, an injury attorney with the Advocates. No matter what the weather is in Utah, we all need to be aware while driving or even walking into your favorite store. If you've been injured in a car, trucking, or slip and fall accident and haven't spoken to an injury attorney yet, call the Advocates today. There is no cost to you to find out if you have a case. Chat online at utahadvocates.com or call 801-355-5550. You deserve an advocate.
I'm Larry Gelwix, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Princess Cruises, with the biggest cruise promotion of the year, including free open bar, free Wi-Fi, and free prepaid gratuities. Sail with Princess Cruises and get free. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
We're going to have an amazing year for local gardens, which means you need the best and newest varieties of seeds available. Anderson Seed and Garden has them, and they make it so simple to get your bulk seeds in-store or order online for in-store pickup before it gets crowded. They even have curated seed collections to help choose and grow a successful garden. Go to AndersonSeedandGarden.com. Once you're there, it's easy to search out your seeds to order. Come see what's new at Anderson Seed and Garden, Logan.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Nikki Haley has dismissed rumors that she might launch a third-party presidential bid, but what if she gets blown out on Super Tuesday? We'll have a preview. Also, what's it mean when we save less and spend more? We'll examine new data from the Commerce Department and what to do if you're having trouble making the monthly car payments. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. And I'm going to do my best to recap the legislative session. 45 days doesn't seem like a long time, but when they're debating close to 600 bills, with 150 of those bills passed in the final 2 days, it's tough. But I made some notes. I kept notes throughout the session, and some highlights, lowlights, things like that. The 45-day session, lawmakers requested a total of 1,487 bills, and then actually introduced with language, with actual words in the bill, 933 bills. And then in the end, they passed 591, setting a new record 3 years in a row. Yay. So, what did they do? Well, they're obviously the big ticket items that got a lot of attention. The $2 billion package designed to lure Major League Baseball and National Hockey League into Utah. and construct stadiums, with the state helping with that, with taxpayers helping with that. To be clear, neither bill directly gives taxpayer money to the stadium construction, but creates what lawmakers call a special district, and it sort of spans the Utah State Fair Park and surrounding areas a bit, and then it would carve out some sales tax dollars and put that back into incentivizing the stadium construction. It would be a state-owned stadium at that point. That's for the Major League Baseball package. The NHL package creates what's called a reinvestment district right in downtown Salt Lake, and city leaders will then have the option to raise the sales tax 0.5% to help construct. This would be kind of a joint project between the NBA, rebuilding the Delta Center, and an NHL arena, and a remodel of the Delta Center in some way would be part of that. So that got a lot of attention, of course. There were other big bills like Governor Cox's homelessness initiative. In his budget in December, he asked for a little over $100 million, I think, for housing aid and homelessness in Utah. And lawmakers gave him, there's about $25 million at the end of the session for what they call a low barrier shelter, expanding access to that. And then in the annual liquor bill, they rounded up on the sales tax on liquor, so it increased to liquor prices in state-owned liquor stores, and that money would then be earmarked for the homeless trust fund. So it gives you kind of an idea of where some of that went. So that's an overview of some of the bigger issues that got attention. There were, of course, the culture war bills at the start of the session. That got a lot of attention. A bill to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in higher education. That got watered down deservedly by pushback from higher ed, and lawmakers getting caught saying that they'd not been presented evidence that DEI offices are working, when then universities came back and said, well, actually, you were presented with that evidence, you just ignored it. It kind of sent a harmful message, I think. But it's a popular culture war thing, and our lawmakers can't seem to help themselves these days from that kind of stuff. Along cultural lines, there was also the brouhaha over state school board member Natalie Klein targeting a high school athlete, accusing a young woman of being transgender, which led to Klein's minions doxing the family and threatening the family, and the school had to hire security for the student. It was a very embarrassing episode. Klein, if she had any shame, would resign. She isn't. She's actually running for re-election. And the House and Senate censured her, which is the strongest condemnation the legislature can offer without actually going for impeachment. People were critical of them not going towards impeachment. The defense lawmakers had is, we've never done that before. And that's where things kind of landed. So there were also smaller bills, though, and smaller issues that didn't get as much attention. And that's what I kind of want to highlight this hour. Notes that I took through the session that didn't, as far as I can see, generate a single headline. For example, there was a bill that created a bias incident hotline where people can report incidents that might not rise to the level of hate crime, but would definitely, qualify as some sort of bias against, specifically mentioned by the bill sponsor when the bill was being presented, was bias incidents against Jewish and Muslim community members. That bill failed to advance in the final days of the session, but it did survive a committee hearing. There was also a bill to expand crime victim rights before the parole board, and that's during when they're considering sentencing. And that bill makes it a crime of unlawful sexual activity with a minor, even if the defendant is 18, but is still in high school at the time of the crime. And then a separate bill that was kind of tied to this made it a crime for a person in a position of trust, like a teacher, to engage in sexual activity with a high school student, even if the student is 18. And lawmakers, I don't even know why they made pantsing a misdemeanor crime. I have no idea where that comes from. Or, I mean, I know this is something that happened at my high school when I was that age, but now it's a misdemeanor. Don't ask me. There was a bill to crack down on police quotas. This is actually already barred in the state of Utah, but it isn't enforced. It isn't aggressively pursued. That bill never got a hearing, surprisingly, but there was a lot of support for that. Juveniles who are interrogated by police, their interviews must be recorded. This was Representative Marcia Judkins who pushed that bill, and I was surprised to find that wasn't already required here in Utah. But, so that's now official in Utah, that you have to, the law enforcement has to record and document the full interview. So along the lines of your government, I've talked about this before. Lawmakers, unfortunately, and the governor, unfortunately, signed a bill that would block the calendars of state officials, elected officials, members of the legislature, the governor himself. Their calendars would be blocked from public view. This is a direct assault on transparency in Utah. This is rolling back a 40-plus, or almost 40 years old, actually, as of this year. I just realized. 40-year-old open government laws here in Utah known as GRAMA, the Government Records and Access Management Act, GRAMA. It's done a great job, and attempts to carve out exceptions in it over the years have always been thwarted until this year. Lawmakers had some pretty specious arguments on why this needed to happen. In fact, the Salt Lake Tribune has a great article picking apart their arguments and showing that none of them are true. Now, of course, local media being very nice in how they say that. They're not coming right out and say, the lawmakers lied. They're saying things like they don't pass the truth test, or hard to find justification to prove, and things like that. But basically, lawmakers made a bunch of things up for something they've wanted to do for years, and they just steamrolled it through this year, showing again that they just feel a lack of accountability to the public, sort of like a what are you going to do kind of thing that pervades our legislature a lot these days, unfortunately, led to this. Senator Bramble, the sponsor of the bill, argued that it was just clarifying existing law and that calendars had never been a public record. This is patently false. And I know that from serving on the State Transparency Advisory Board, where we discussed this for several meetings for about a year, on whether or not addresses and phone numbers that might make it into, say, a lawmaker's calendar that was then requested through a public records request could be redacted, which, of course, as a board, we said, sure, addresses and phone numbers, those should be redacted. But to say that calendars had never been a public document, Senator Bramble, absolutely false. That was unfortunately repeated in the House by Representative Brady Brammer as well, the House sponsor of Bramble's bill. This, of course, comes right as a judge ruled that Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes' calendar is a public record. This bill doesn't change that, but it's obviously a response to that, and it's an unfortunate thing because it is absolutely in the public's interest to see a calendar of an elected official. It's something that really you should have access to and you should be able to see. But unfortunately, for the time being, that is not the way it works here in Utah. So speaking of the Attorney General, there was a bill that blocked the Utah Attorney General from participating in side hustles. That was the actual terminology used on the House floor during the discussion and debate. Senator Andrew Stoddard told Fox 13 News that he ran the bill over questions around the Attorney General's work with Operation Underground Railroad. The Attorney General doing some outside lawyering, basically, making money off of it. And this bill says that the state Attorney General cannot do that. So, then finally, this was actually a good thing. though a technicality. Lawmakers passed a bill to update the definition of what constitutes an electronic meeting in Utah, just to make it official. Everyone was doing this already, but to make it official that an electronic meeting would include audio or video attendance at a meeting. And the bill says elected officials may not act together outside of a meeting in any concerted effort to predetermine the outcome of the meeting. I don't know how you'd enforce this, but it's now officially on the books that if you're caught doing that, it is against the law here in Utah. And one final thing to mention, all hour we're going to be recapping this, but I wanted to mention this as well. I didn't know this was happening, but a bill also blocked lobbyists from contacting lawmakers at their place of work. Most of our state legislators have day jobs outside of being elected legislators, and this was apparently happening where lobbyists were having a hard time getting hold of lawmakers during the outside of the 45-day session period of the year, and so they were tracking them down at work. And I don't know why any lobbyist would think that was a good idea. Also, we've had him on the show a few times, but there was a signature gathering effort to do away with Utah's new state flag. We have two state flags, the official one and then this more updated sort of fancy, looks good on a T-shirt one. That bill, or that signature gathering drive, failed. They only got about half the signatures they needed to get that on the ballot. And so the backers got someone running for governor, Representative Phil Lyman. They got him to sponsor a bill that would just do it legislatively, just do away with the new state flag. That bill didn't even survive a committee hearing. So that has obviously been decided by the legislature at this point. So recapping the 45-day legislative session here on the show, and stick with us. More to come right after this.
Wouldn't it be nice to lose a minimum of 2 to 5 inches of fat, just like that? At Bell Medical, with our uniquely patented FDA-cleared procedures, we are able to permanently remove that stubborn, hormonal fat that almost seems impossible to get rid of. And we are able to do it in a way that is so precise, we can guarantee a minimum of 2 to 5 inches of fat loss after one visit with us.
Schedule your free consultation at our Bountiful Clinic at bellmedical.com and let us make your dreams a reality.
Tuesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. It's Super Tuesday. In my home state of Tennessee, I'll be voting California, Texas, and other states as well. Plus, Buck.
Florida, my friends, going to be casting votes and talking about what's going on down here. We'll discuss what this means when we look at the data for the upcoming general election and down ballot races and much more on Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Recapping the legislative session here on the show today, and there is a lot. 45-day session, almost 600 bills passed, 150 of them in the final 2 days. Just everything about this session was wrong in so many ways, but highlighting some of the things that they did. I've recapped some of the governance bills, the hiding their calendars from you, rolling back our open records law for the first time in 40 years. Not a good look, and the governor, of course, signed that less than 24 hours later. Very disappointed to see him do that, especially when a veto was right there in his lap. The public would have been on his side, and unfortunately the governor folded like a wet napkin on that one, but we'll see how it goes. School safety was also a topic during the legislative session. Lawmakers passed a couple of bills that were intended to improve school safety. One increases the penalties for school shooting hoax threats or hoax bomb threats. These are, unfortunately, there was one issue here in Utah last year in which multiple schools received a threat, and the only thing I remember hearing about that from law enforcement is they decided that it was actually coming from out of state, these calls, and so I don't know. It's really weird that this is something that happens, but it does. But it is now a far worse crime here in Utah to do that. There have been some incidents where students of schools have done that as well. So it is the penalties were increased for that. There is also a bill that will provide training and coordination between schools, and that basically takes existing school safety measures but coordinates the training better across districts, because they found some districts weren't training as often as required, or were lacking certain trainers, and so they're going to be. This bill allows some funding for sharing resources across schools and school districts throughout the state. Smart idea. And then there was a controversial bill that allowed for armed guardians in schools. The bill also would have required signs at schools that said, "Not a gun-free zone." That was quickly stripped from the bill by the committee. The committee basically said, this won't pass if that provision is in there. Representative Tim Jimenez agreed to strip that provision from the bill to get it out of committee, and it offers basically trainings for teachers to carry concealed weapons. The other provision that was added to the bill in order to get it to pass was storing the guns in gun safes while at school, because there was an incident of a teacher with a concealed weapon at a school. Concealed weapon fell out while the teacher was on the toilet, and it shot the toilet, shattered the toilet. So, yeah. There was a separate bill to actually teach firearm safety and concealed weapon handling at the schools. That bill didn't get out of committee. So that's kind of where the school safety thing landed this year, kind of a muted year on that front. And I want to point out, too, they're still kind of ignoring their own school safety commission that they put together and the recommendations that were made there. But, yeah. Education-wise, there was also Senator Ann Senator Ann Milner had an interesting bill that would offer students about $7,400 in tuition assistance if they did community service. I thought that was kind of a cool idea. The bill itself is pretty complicated. If you want to see how it works, there's a lot to it. But basically, if a student, if it does a certain number of hours or a certain number of agreements and actually commits to the community service, they can get up to $7,400 in tuition assistance towards college. I thought that was a really cool idea. Germany does something like this on a regular basis. Other European countries have even tried it on a not volunteer basis. So I didn't think this would pass. I thought the European angle on this would maybe shoot it down, but it passed. So and hasn't been signed by the governor yet, but I don't see any reason the governor would veto this. So also, Representative Rosemary Lesser had a bill to allow school employees to administer adrenal insufficiency medication. Rep. Lesser said that she learned that schools were not training employees on this. They had adrenal insufficiency medication on hand, but they weren't training on it because there were questions about the legalities of administering this drug to students who might need it in an emergency, and yet the doctors who advise the school board and school districts have recommended it for years. So she said they decided this was just kind of a loophole in training regulation here in the state, and so they updated the statute to allow that, to actually state right out that school employees can be trained to administer adrenal insufficiency medication. And there was also another bill related to this. I don't remember the sponsor that allowed schools to have on hand epinephrine and albuterol for emergencies for students as well, to actually store it at the school to have it on hand. So there were also bills that allowed teachers more money for buying their own classroom supplies. That was early in the session. One of my favorite lawmakers, Representative Karen Peterson, who formerly worked as an advisor to Governor Herbert on education. She's now in the state legislature. She passed a bill to require colleges and to come up with plans on tenure and state them in writing out front to professors seeking tenure at the college level, saying when she presented the bill that the system in Utah is very inconsistent throughout the state, and it shouldn't be. So there's a handful of the education bills. On the other side, a bill that really aims to crack down on road rage, including, well, you can have your vehicle impounded now here in Utah for road rage, similar to getting a DUI, and it does affect your insurance in the same way as well. We'll talk about the debate around this bill after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:33, and the news brought to you by Roof Rescue. Among about 2.3 million miles of water mains in the U.S. and Canada, a significant number are defective and should be replaced. The people at Utah State University's Water Research Lab recently published their third report in the last 12 years regarding water main breaks across North America. Primary researcher Dr. Stephen Barfus said the infrastructure in the two countries is aging, causing water pipelines to deteriorate. UWRL analyzed several 100,000 miles of pipe data, representing about 17% of the water mains in the two countries, and determined 452,000 miles of water pipes in the U.S. and Canada are beyond their useful lives and need to be replaced. Barfus said, though, it would cost $452 billion to correct those problems. Other major findings of the USU study: utilities report the average failure age of water pipe is 53 years. The estimated average water loss to leakage is 11%. PVC pipe has the lowest break rate when compared to cast iron, ductile iron, steel, and asbestos cement pipes. And the U.S. and Canada experience 260,000 water main breaks annually. According to Barfus, it costs $10,000 on average for every water main break that occurs. A copy of the full report is available through USU Library's Digital Commons. And new leaders are vested with responsibilities and powers during an investiture ceremony. It's the act of conferring the authority of high office. Well, since becoming the Utah State University president 7 months ago, Elizabeth Cantwell has been busy getting to know her new school and even reshaping the leadership team she inherited. Since such ceremonies are usually held during a president's first year in office, Dr. Cantwell's is scheduled for Friday, April 12th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. in the Danes Concert Hall. Delegates from various colleges and universities alongside USU faculty will be featured in an academic procession and will wear academic regalia of their own alma mater. During a reception after the ceremony in the Merrill Kazir Library, a new Aggie ice cream flavor in honor of the new president will be revealed. Because seating will be limited, those wishing to attend should RSVP for the event at usu.edu/investiture. The ceremony will be live-streamed on AggieCast. Dr. Cantwell is USU's 17th president. She was named in May and assumed her new role in August 2023. KVNU News Time is 5:36.
Roof Rescue is your local roof specialist, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry no matter the weather. Their team of experienced roofers is here to serve you, providing top-quality service at affordable prices. From minor repairs to complete roof replacements, they've got you covered. Remember, your roof is your first line of defense in protecting your family from the elements. So don't wait until the next storm to discover your roof problems. Call Roof Rescue today at 435-999-4268. They're your trusted local roofing experts, here to keep your home safe and dry. Roof Rescue, celebrating 10 years of providing watertight peace of mind.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Sievertson. Former President Trump and others praising the unanimous Supreme Court decision that struck down state efforts to keep him off the ballot, citing the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race.
The ruling comes a day before the Super Tuesday primaries. Supreme Court Justice Alito has issued a temporary stop to the Texas immigration law that allows state and local police to arrest people accused of crossing the border illegally. The Massachusetts Air National Guard member Jack Teixeira pleaded guilty today to leaking highly classified military documents about national security secrets and sharing on social media. He made a deal with prosecutors that puts him behind bars for 11 years at least. U.S. Attorney Josh Levy.
He violated his duty to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And he abused his position of trust given to him by the American government.
This is ABC News.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy skies, overnight low between 15 and 20 degrees. Slight chance of snow Tuesday morning, then a 40% chance of snow and rain in the afternoon, high around 40. Rain and snow likely Tuesday night, and then cloudy 50% chance of rain and snow on Wednesday. High temperature in the low 40s. 33 was where we topped out today. It's 32 right now at KVNU. The Duct Hunter reminds you, check your dryer vent often. A plugged vent could lead to problems. If you can't clean it, call the Duct Hunter, 435-770-4813. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com.
Have you pulled your spring sheets out of storage, and do they smell stale and need freshening up? How about your blankets and your quilts? Are things dingy from winter use? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It takes no time at all to freshen everything up with their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, and it costs a lot less than the dry cleaners, and free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, too. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce invites you to attend the annual Awards Gala on Friday, March 8th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Enjoy a wonderful evening of fine dining and recognition of Cache Valley's outstanding businesses and individuals, including Citizen of the Year, Legacy Business of the Year, New Event of the Year, Project of the Year, Woman of the Year, and more. Don't miss the Cache Chamber Awards Gala Friday, March 8th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Reserve your seat at cashchamber.com or call 435-752-2161.
Living room, bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchen, family room, laundry room, mudrooms, and more. Deciding what flooring goes best in each room of your home can be a decision fiasco. Hart Floor Company helps people just like you make those decisions every day. Whether you're building or remodeling, Hart Floor Company will show you ideas with stunning designs and sensible solutions to fit your lifestyle. Whether it's carpet, vinyl, tile, LVT, or hardwood, make sure you visit Hart Floor Company at 390 North 10th West in Logan.
24 NCAA appearances, 17 conference championships, 10 tournament championships. New head coach Danny Sprinkle and the Aggies are carrying on their commitment to excellence.
Tip to Brown. Brown at the three. Yes! It's the three. What a shot.
The Utah State Aggies play here with pregame beginning 1 hour before tip-off, play-by-play and postgame interviews and Aggie call afterwards. It's Aggie basketball on News Talk KVNU.
The world needs more heroes, more action-oriented do-gooders, more here's how I can help right-hand men and women. The world of sarcoma is no different. And if you're thinking, what is sarcoma? We're glad you're listening. Sarcoma is a rare cancer of the body's soft tissue and bone, a cancer affecting tens of thousands of Americans every year. A cancer that has more than 70 subtypes, many of which require unique treatment options at various stages of discovery, and we lose thousands of lives to sarcoma in the U.S. on a yearly basis. The Sarcoma Foundation of America partners with heroes, do-gooders, and helpers from all walks of life to advocate for sarcoma patients through funded research and widespread awareness efforts. New and more effective sarcoma therapies are out there. We just need to work together to discover them and find a cure for this cancer once and for all. Now is the time to step up and fight the good fight against sarcoma. Join forces by visiting curesarcoma.org to learn more.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. a message from Cache County GOP Chair Jeff Cox that I wanted to get to. Just a brief interlude in our legislative recap, and we'll get to these enhanced penalty bills that passed during the session, including increased penalties for road rage. Lawmakers stepping up the penalties for road rage to put it somewhere up there in the same category as a DUI. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But again, message from the Cache County Republican Party Chair Jeff Cox regarding tomorrow night's caucus night events. Let me just say this right out of the gate. Pre-register, pre-register, pre-register. If you plan to attend caucus tomorrow night, if you listen to this message and decide, okay, I'm going to attend, make your very next stop cashgop.com and pre-register. This will make credentialing and getting you into the caucus meetings tomorrow much more efficient, to say the least. So these are planned to be hour to 2 hour events, but some years credentialing alone has taken an hour, and they've gone for 3. So pre-register, pre-register, pre-register. Things get underway tomorrow night at your various precinct meetings and caucus locations, which you can also find at cashgop.com at around 6 o'clock. And so this is right around the bend. And Chairman Cox sent this along on why he feels like this is an important thing that everyone should get out and be a part of. Cox wrote in an email to us here at KVNU, he said, the caucus convention system is, of course, everyone knows this, how political parties in Utah ensure that candidates who run for office are committed to that party's platform and are qualified, and nominating candidates for the ballot and things like that. Everyone's familiar with that part of the caucus convention system, but he said this part is actually more important. A precinct, for example, is a neighborhood that comes together to elect representatives, officers, and delegates. Officers then administer the precinct, coordinate with delegates, and help govern the county party in the end. Delegates represent their neighbors at conventions to select candidates for general election ballots. And I would interject here and say that oftentimes delegates also play a role in special elections, electing candidates midterm should someone resign early, things like that. Cox says, why delegates? Without a delegate system, a candidate running for office must communicate with 38,000 plus Republicans. This is a pretty high number and means the candidates will engage voters through mass media and mass advertising, which allows a more superficial form of communication. He said if you're running for the state House of Representatives, you would only need to talk to 139 delegates instead of 9,500 voters. Candidates spend more time with fewer people, allowing for a thorough investigation. Now, that's where I would step in and say this is why delegates, when you are a delegate, need to take that job seriously, because that has undermined some of the credibility of the caucus convention system. Delegates who have not thoroughly vetted candidates or who have jumped on certain bandwagons have caused some embarrassing moments in the caucus convention system. So I would interject, take the job seriously, but absolutely get out and be a part of it. Cox continues, he says, the Republican caucus meeting is a mass meeting where every registered party member in a neighborhood can participate. If you are a pink Republican, you and your pink neighbors work together to elect pink delegates who will choose pink candidates at the convention. If you're a green Republican, the same process. He said the beauty of the neighborhood caucus means it reflects the majority philosophy of the neighborhood, but only if members of the neighborhood are showing up to be elected as officers and delegates. Makes sense, right? So he said caucus is the answer to money-driven, superficial soundbite campaigns, and that alone is a reason for you to be a part of it. He said the good news is every Republican candidate running for office in Cache County is participating in the caucus convention system, and he says we hope you'll come participate in the presidential preference poll as well, which replaces the Super Tuesday primary that's often been held here in Utah, and then also stick around to elect neighbors you trust to represent you in county party politics and decisions. So, to participate tomorrow night again in the Republican caucus meetings this year, go to cashgop.com, pre-register, and this will get you into the meetings a lot faster tomorrow night, and then make time to show up to your neighborhood caucus meetings, which you can also find locations for at castgop.com, and be a part of the process. So appreciate Cash GOP Chair Jeff Cox for sending that along. And now back to our legislative recap. Again, this is just from my notes. I tried to keep notes through the 45-day session of bills that I thought were noteworthy, but and also weren't going to get a lot of headlines and discussion outside of our show, because if I found it noteworthy, I probably brought it up at the time. These weren't big culture war bills like we started the session with. These weren't high-profile bills like the $2 billion Major League Baseball incentive package. These weren't, big education funding bills that got a lot of debate and a lot of news stories written about them. But they are important in their own way, and I wanted to spotlight some of them, for better or worse. Some of these I don't agree with. But this is what happened. Well, I shouldn't say behind the scenes, because they aren't trying to hide this from you. It doesn't get as much attention for whatever reason. But one that really, really stood out for me was, two on the same topic. But there was a bill that created a public awareness campaign about road rage. And during the committee hearing on this, state lawmakers were informed by a member of the Department of Public Safety that incidents of road rage have increased almost 335% in the last 3 years. And he said that law enforcement is also reporting other signs of increased aggressive driving, which can come in the forms of record number of citations for speeds over 100 miles an hour, record number of citations for following too close, record number of citations for dangerous driving that was geared towards expressing your outrage at another driver. All of these records have been set in the last 3 years. Utah Department of Public Safety representative said at the committee hearing for the public awareness campaign about road rage. So that bill passed, of course, some funding set aside for this public awareness campaign. But there were other bills dealing with road rage as well. Lawmakers signed off on a major crackdown on road rage through enhanced penalties in extreme cases, including, this is something that you should know. You've seen these ads maybe running on TV. I think this is currently being funded by just a general Department of Public Safety budget here in Utah, separate from the new money put aside for this public awareness campaign in this session. But you've seen these ads about, a bad decision can change your life forever. One bad decision because you're mad at another driver. Along those lines, in Utah now, as soon as the governor signs this bill, which I'm assuming he will, and then it takes effect, I believe, July 1st. Yes, July 1st. These enhanced penalties, similar to a situation if you were arrested for driving under the influence for DUI, in an extreme road rage scenario, law enforcement will now have the ability to seize your car and impound your car, which is something that only happens usually in a DUI or other arrest scenario where the person's going to be leaving with a police officer, not in their own vehicle. So road rage can now lead to the seizure and impound of your vehicle and a suspension of your driver's license, also similar in length and process for suspension to driving under the influence. These new penalties were signed off nearly unanimously by two different committees, one in the House, one in the Senate, after being presented data from Utah Department of Public Safety on increased incidents of road rage, and then passed the Senate nearly unanimously and the House as close to unanimously as the House ever gets. So there was strong agreement in both chambers and from both parties that these enhanced penalties were necessary after the Utah Department of Public Safety presentation on increased incidents of aggressive driving and road rage here in Utah. So, again, spread the word on this. Road rage is now something that could lead to, it was just a citation at most, oftentimes just a lecture from cops. Now, an extreme case of road rage where you're found at fault or would be arrested normally by the officer could lead to seizure and impounding of your vehicle and a suspension of your driver's license, similar to being arrested for driving under the influence. So, as far as other crime and punishment-related bills, this one was just interesting. I don't know the impact of this, but there was a bill to have the Utah Highway Patrol take over all of policing and police planning at the Salt Lake International Airport. It was introduced and then just never went anywhere. Never got a hearing, never got discussion. The sponsor said nothing else about it. I had a chance to ask the sponsor in person what the impetus for the bill was, and the sponsor just shook his head. So I don't know what the story there is, but yeah. There was also a bill. So there have been a string of people going to the airport, bringing their firearms to the airport, and that is a violation of federal law. But a bill here in Utah would assume it was accidental. I don't know how. Well, I don't know, maybe. It seems unlikely to me that these are accidental situations. I don't know what someone's thinking. You should know you can't fly with a gun. But the bill here in Utah that did pass assumes innocence, assumes that it's an accidental thing if someone brings a firearm to the airport with the intent of getting on a plane with it. And so a bill passed during the legislative session. The first offense is a warning. After that, it becomes much more serious very quickly. And any firearm seized in any of these scenarios, the state law will now require that be returned to the individual within 3 to 7 days. So that was another bill that did actually pass. It's interesting to me that during the session, when it comes to these, crime and punishment, law enforcement, things like that, bills, they did get really robust debates, long, lengthy debates. Senator Weiler, for example, he passed a bill that completely reworked the indigent defense here in Utah. People charged with a crime have the right to counsel, obviously, the constitutional right to counsel, even if they can't afford it. And there's been some controversy around this in Utah because some areas, like here in Cache County, the public defenders are actually employees of the prosecutors here in Cache County, the county attorney's office. That could raise a conflict of interest. In other areas, the controversy was more around the fact that there were hardly any public defenders in contrast to the number of prosecutors in an office. That was Weber County, I think, that got dinged for that in the statewide report. And Senator Weiler has kind of been the champion of this over the years, and he got a bill passed this session adding to that work people charged with a crime who have the right to counsel. The bill just changes the process by which money is doled out for more serious cases, i.e. cases where a public defender is going to be tied up and busy for a long time. A lot of that money was coming out of county and district attorney budgets, and so now the state will pick up the tab through indigent defense funding that was created a few years ago. So, smart move on that part. And this one really caught my eye because I'm not a fan of these. I've seen a lot of data to show they're ineffective and even harmful in several ways. But the police serving a knock warrant video was the justification for this bill. And it did pass the legislature, by the way, and is waiting for the governor's signature. But video was presented by a few different organizations, civil rights organizations, 2 lawmakers in the committee that showed body camera footage of these knock warrants where, I'm not exaggerating, like 2 knocks kicked the door in. And so lawmakers clarified statute on this. Law enforcement in Utah serving a knock warrant, that is a warrant where they are required to knock before kicking the door in. They have amended statute in the state to say that they must wait a reasonable amount of time for someone to respond to the knock before kicking the door in. Again, this stems from video that was brought forward of police officers knocking, literally just knock, knock, kick. And lawmakers said, nah, that's not going to cut it on a warrant that requires a knock signed off on by a judge. So there you have it. Some bills that didn't really get the spotlight during the legislative session but deserved their attention. One final mention we'll get to on the other side. Artificial intelligence actually got a lot of debate here in Utah during the session. Why and what they did about it, right after this.
I'm Jason Walton. In business, I mentor hundreds of Utahns as they pursue their American dream. The same dream career politicians treat with contempt. They send our money to our enemies abroad while shortchanging our veterans at home. It's not right. They're letting drug cartels escort criminals and terrorists across our border. It's time to stand up. So I'm running for the United States Senate. Stand with me. I'm Jason Walton, and I approve this message.
Paid for by friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Dr. Danes for an appointment at 753-HERE and let him show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
The Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show, presented by Anderson Seed and Garden, is March 22nd and 23rd at the Eccles Eye Center. For 25 plus years, thousands of people have enjoyed this fun and helpful home show. Main Street access, great parking, and thousands of visitors make it perfect for your business. Reserve your space today. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show for details or call 752-1390.
That's 752-1390.
The Best of Northern Utah contest is back, presented by the Cater Shop Menswear Store. We're asking each of you to think about those special places that make our town unique and nominate them now at bestofnorthernutah.com. Is there a quaint cafe where you love to start your day, or a local shop that always goes the extra mile? Nominate them now. Maybe your medical professional went above and beyond, or a mechanic saved your bacon. Nominate all of them now at bestofnorthernutah.com.
Best of Northern Utah.
I was there for my son's first breath and his
The
last.
infection spreads so fast.
My son did not have to die.
School nurses nationwide urge you to listen to the voices of meningitis. Get preteens and teens vaccinated against this rare but serious disease. To learn more, go to voicesofmeningitis.org.
Save a life. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
610 AM and 102 FM.
Best part of my day.
News Talk KVNU, Logan. Proud to be locally owned and operated by the Cache Valley Media Group.